Hey everyone, in this quick video, I'm going to go through 5 things you can do if you want to profit on the Spring Racing Carnival. These are going to be short, sharp tips that you can implement right away moving forward the next time you're analyzing races. Number 1 is to go through and pick and choose your betting races really carefully. This time of year, anytime during the spring, there's always big fields. It's like compared to some meetings and some races where we see races with just 6, 8, 10, 12 runners, there's a lot of races with 14, 16, 18 plus runners in these races. And it's not to say you don't want to bet into those races. That's not the point here. The point of it is understanding that luck in running heavily comes into play, because when you've got a bigger field, then it's harder to firstly get a position, particularly if you're drawn wide. Jockeys that are drawn wide, particularly over distance races, have one of two options really. That's to roll forward, use a lot of energy and get a spot up on speed, or it's to go right back and restrain back in the field and then have to make most of the time a wide looping run. Those are definitely not ideal ways to win races. Also, neither is when you have a low draw in a big field on a horse that settles midfield or back. Those runners generally have a lot of traffic in their way, and it can be hard for them to establish clear running early enough to win races, especially in big fields where there's not as many gaps of room to move. So you just want to be really cautious of this. Also with straight races at Flemington, sometimes one side of the track will be a bigger advantage. So they're playing to the outside rail, horses draw in barriers 1, 2, 3. That kind of thing, especially in big fields, they have no hope of getting across to that outside rail. So they're going to have to perform even better to win closer to the inside or more so in the middle of the track. So these are some of the things you definitely want to keep in mind when you're betting into those big fields. It's not to say these aren't good betting races, because the market percentage and all that is just the same. Every horse is given a probability of winning. You'll have more at much bigger odds, but that's always factored into the odds that you're taking for the runner. So the percentage doesn't matter. The point is you just don't want to bet into a race where a horse is going to need a lot of luck in order to win that race and everything absolutely go to plan. Oftentimes in that situation, you're going to be taking unders and it's not going to be profitable long term. Number 2 is to be cautious of horses who have bigger targets coming up and minimal motivation to win certain races. Now, there's a perfect example of this that's happened in the past month, and that is a horse called Revelare, who's been running around in Victoria. This horse has a fantastic record. We've backed it to win plenty of times. I think it's won 8 of its 12 starts so far. But about a month ago, Revelare won the Lexus Stakes, which secured its run into the 2025 Melbourne. Following that, 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks ago from when I'm recording this, Revelare was lining up in the Bart Cummings and was $4 or less. It was about $3.80, $3.90 from when the markets went up, close to jump time, and then it drifted late out to $5.50. Now, you might think, okay, it won the Lexus, that's a Group 3, it's into the Melbourne Cup. The issue is the Bart Cummings, if Revelare won that race, it would cop a weight penalty in the Melbourne Cup. And the Bart Cummings being a Group 3 and only $350,000 prize money, there's basically zero reason at all when you're already in the Melbourne Cup and it's worth millions, it's a Group 1 and obviously such a big race, to go 100% and try and win the Bart Cummings race. No reason at all. And it's not like Revelare was a 30s or 40s or $50 chance. It was second elect in the market. It was right there. I'm sure a lot of people backed it and then wondered why it only ended up running 7th in the race. The reason is because there was no intent at all for Revelare to win that race. And you can absolutely guarantee the jockey made sure that Revelare wasn't within winning range. Gilded Water went along way too fast out in front, burned up its chances, but he was making sure that Revelare wasn't within range. He didn't want to be looming up with 3 or 4 other runners in that final 200 meters and then try to make it look like he couldn't win the race. So this is something you really need to be aware of at this time of year. There's certain races that are more so just fitness runs, which brings me to point number 3, and that is to be cautious of horses who've had hidden runs and just been building fitness. So this is the exact opposite of point number 2, and it's horses that when you look at their recent form, their finishing positions, their beaten margins, that kind of thing, it can look pretty bad on paper. But I'm always wary of these. So every time I'm betting on a race, I always go through, look at every single runner just to make sure there's none of these runners lurking in there at $10, $15, $20. They're normally within that range. Their form looks terrible on paper, but when you watch those races, you can see that however that race played out, it was more of a fitness run as opposed to there being intent trying to win. They're trying to set a horse up for a particular race, whether that's third, fourth, fifth up in the preparation, and they're not worried about those first few runs. It can be a bigger prize money race. In the Everest, there's a lot of money on the line, and you have horses that are already going to that race. And yes, they might win a race or here, first up, second up on their path towards it. However, from a betting perspective, you just got to be cautious and find the right situations, as the intent of winning those races isn't quite there. Like sometimes they can just be too good for the field they're facing, which is completely fine in that situation. Then back them, no doubt about it. But you just want to be cautious of those ones where if they bring their absolute best, they can win this race. But you got to keep in mind, there is that target. They're probably not at 100% fitness. They might only be 80, 85% of the way there. The intention, they don't want to bust the horse in that first up run in a low prize money race when they've got the big target a few weeks down the line. And generally, like watching replays can give you a good indication on that. Watch the jockey tactics. Is it a horse that normally goes forward, or at least in the first half of the field, but in their first two runs they've dropped back? Now third up, this is the race, now they're going to roll forward. Also watching the market, seeing if there's a bit of positive market move around that runner is a good sign, especially for certain stables as well. Number 4 is to watch the mounting yard. Now we're pretty blessed, like for the mounting yard, we can see it for New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland, and South Australia for all the metro meetings. And WE only get it at certain times of the year. But regardless, it's pretty good. But the main thing you want to look at here, especially around this time of the year and when you've got hot or high humidity days, is how horses are parading. You just want to be cautious of horses that are excessively sweating, as they rarely run well in that situation, especially if they're not known for it. There's some horses that just always sweat up in the parade and can sweat up badly and still run well, but oftentimes horses who don't often sweat and then sweat really bad aren't going to bring their best performance because they've drained so much energy early on. And you'll see if it's going to be a really hot day, they'll minimize the mounting yard, they'll keep it to as quick as they possibly can, and so it neutralizes that a little bit. But this is something to just keep an eye on, especially if you're someone who's betting late. For me personally, I don't really do a great deal of late betting, but back over the years there has been times, or if there's races where I'm waiting to closer to the jump time to make a particular bet on a horse, it's something that I'll then factor in, because it can help you decide not to back a horse because of how it's parading. Also, in relation to the mounting yard, horses that waste a lot of energy on these kind of race days where there's big crowds, lots of noise, you'll see a lot of horses get the earmuffs on pre-race. That's to limit them overreacting to the amount of people, the amount of noise, and that kind of thing on these big race days, because if they do too much, they're moving around, they're going sideways, all that kind of thing can really affect their performance in the race. You generally want them as neutral or relaxed as possible, particularly in middle distance and staying races. And then point number 5 is this time of year, you often have horses coming out of the same races and lining up against each other in the following race. And this is really good because it helps you create good references for their last start performances, and also lining up horses against each other, compared to what you often have to do is to line up horses' performance by using other horses out of that race. So there might be the horse that ran second to it has previously versed another horse in a similar-ish race over a similar distance. You can line up their performances and that kind of thing. When you can line up them coming out of the same race, and you'll often get 3 or 4 horses this time of year all coming from one race and then going to the next one, that's really good. And sometimes there's races where you've got the whole field coming from 1 to sometimes 3 races all lining up against each other. So there's good ways where you can use that last start as a really good reference point. So what you want to do here is look for the positives and negatives coming from that last start through to this start. So things like, do they have a weight swing, or does either horse have a weight swing on those rivals? Usually the winner will have to carry more weight going to that next race than the horses that it beat last time. Have the track conditions change? Was that last start on a good 4? Now they're running on a heavy track, or vice versa. That can definitely affect their performance because some horses like one over the other. Is there a rise in distance? Are they jumping from 14 to 16, or they're going from the 2000 to the 2400? And is that going to favor one runner a little bit more? Was a certain runner disadvantaged? Were they 3 wide the trip, or were they caught on the fence? Was the winner of the race leading and the horse that ran second last and made up plenty of ground? And if it can sit closer this time around, how have the barriers changed? Is the one who won that race last time, it had a really good gate that time. Now this time it's drawn wide, where another one is drawn better. These are all the different things you can line up, which can then help you determine how much that margin can be reversed, or if it's going to hold. Because sometimes these things don't even come into play because they'll go into the next race with the same weight, with the same jockey and that kind of thing, and then you're just weighing up a sum of these factors. Has the jockey changed as well? That's definitely a big one. How did they travel in the run? Were they over racing, or were they? Those kind of things all impact the performance, so you want to use that last race as a reference point, and this time of year is a really good one because you've got so many horses coming from the same races. Doing these things in combination with others, but these points in this video, is definitely going to help you win more bets, work out the probability of horses that are going to win, and help you make more profit on the horse racing. Hopefully you found this video insightful. Thanks guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And if you want to follow all my horse racing selections, the link to that is in the description. You can follow it with promotions or without promotions. It works both ways. So definitely check that out. I'll see you guys in the next video.